This is it. Welcome to Behind the Scenes with the OGs. Got Goldee and DJ Horror.
Welcome to Behind the Scenes with the OGs. I'm Goldee, your West Coast host. Got my sidekick, DJ Horror, Sweet Poly, Louisiana, the squarest town in Louisiana. The slowest. They not popping at all, man. But yeah. So anyway, we're here today to present. We're on episode 13 of Behind the Scenes with the OG. We have some screen sharing to do, dealing with reparation, and basically we just holding down, reparation, until we, reach the state, the point to where, we got that. We're gonna stay on top of that. And what's up with it, DJ?
Oh man, I had to make a note because what I've been seeing in the discussion and the testimony, all right, they think we don't have a can-do attitude. I'm a Grambling State University graduate, and some of these experts saying the average person won't be able to do their homework on reparation and be able to connect their linkage, define their family. So I today the book came in with my family history from 1739 to 1940. So I just want to tell all the people over in California and my relatives over there in California that I already got one piece of the documents that we need. This is only a part of it. I got to connect the dots, and I'm telling you, that's what I learned at Grambling State University.
Okay, well, give our audience a peep, what's up with that book, the title of the book.
Well, no. Okay, I don't want to do that because I already sent homeboy a notice saying if you don't want to come on my show, I'm not going to promote your book. All right. Sure. I sent him a notice, and so you got it. I got it in writing, and you're hearing it right over there too. So I'm telling my relatives it's time for us to unite. All right. Let's set aside our differences or whatever and unite.
Yes, sir. Okay, so moving on. I have a screen share that I'm gonna be dealing with some Black people, American Blacks, and they title is Foundation for Black American, and Foundation for Black American is actually us Blacks who are natives of America and not Africa. Okay. We know that our history, you understand what I'm saying? We have been misinformed. We have been, told made up stories, and all of it was for economical reason for the next race, which is the pale face race, to, be on top economically and keep us on the bottom. Okay. So the foundation of Black America is you, it's me, and it's everybody who's natives, all Blacks who are natives of America. We was in the beginning of our existence in America, we was actually American Indians. Okay. But that's the historical fact that us as Black Americans need to take it upon ourselves to research and find out, who you truly are, who we truly are.
Yeah, I want to add to that, man. When they talk about homeschooling, they usually talk about kids. All right. So what am I doing here today? I'm letting you know what I learned from my own homeschooling to top off what education I got, because I'm telling you, they missed a whole lot of information, you know, in high school, elementary school, and even college. They missed a whole lot of things. So
yeah, purposely.
self-educate ourselves. That's how you put some seasoning on top of your state that you got called a diploma.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, we know that, you know what I'm saying, we have been misinformed as far as it comes down to education, you know what I'm saying, because the education that we getting, you know what I'm saying, have been flipped to benefit somebody else besides us. And, you know, that's the situation that we in as far as education go. But it's a known fact that we had our own existence before we integrated, and we had our own businesses, our own educational system and institutions, everything. Just like we have, just like exists today, we had already had our own existence before we went for that integration ordeal.
Yeah, well, I want to point out that we need to highlight that in some Black communities, they failed to do what they did in Black Wall Street, which they built big Black neighborhoods, probably because of segregation and the redlining laws and stuff like that.
Jim Crow, regentrification,
but I'm just
all
saying,
that.
I'm just saying, now them communities have last for decades and decades. And what people didn't do in many of these Black neighborhoods, especially in Shreveport, is that they didn't build enough industries inside of that Black neighborhood to retain the talent and the educational talents of our youth. All right. So when they graduated, most of them left. You know, if you look at the population of Louisiana, it's been stagnant or slightly on a decline. And that's because our best, our brightest, and our boldest have been leaving ever since the Black migration way back in the 1940s.
Well, just like I say, you know, we American Blacks are the people of our color who have suffered the most. We are the people who have put up a fight for racism, for white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? We have stood our grounds, and we still standing our grounds today. And today we at the point to we are owed a debt, and it must be paid. And it's very big now. It's reparation has been discussed for over 30 years. We're gonna have brother Dr. Claude Anderson. We're gonna do a screen share with him. He's personally been dealing with reparations for 30 years, you know what I'm saying, within his own self, you know what I'm saying, trying to, you know, get us to where we need to be, and present information that's, you know, we need to really get up on this information, put this in our brains and pull together as a people, you know what I'm saying, and strive to get this debt paid to us.
Right. And man, I want to, you know, put some sauce on top of that, man, put some flavor on it. And it's that we also got to be able to recognize industries and then fight for that industry. You know, part of my conversation now with the people dealing with AB 3121 in California is like they already know that some of the people that was born in California left, such as myself, for educational purposes, we left, or employment purposes, we left, whatever that is. But the way I look at it, California needs people like me right now identifying the industries, because that's why I got this can-do attitude. some people think that we can't do something. No, the way I look at it, I'm fighting for a whole industry, a multi-million-dollar industry, to starting off with my family. And I estimate that I probably got 200 close and distant cousins and stuff in California. So if I just help them get their money, that's a business. I can start right there and continue to expand that as they go to the federal level. Then it will not be necessary for me to move in order to service my people that's in my family. And in Louisiana, I found out as I was doing my homework for this, we got over 300 and something people that's in my family that's a part of the Family Reunion Project. And I would love to be able to help them get their reparation money. First of all, before the money even come, I got to make sure that they don't delay this action like they did with HR 40 and keep delaying the study for 30 years. That's a study. That's not appropriation. Just a study. They haven't really given an okay to do the study. So that's what's the significant difference between what's happening on the federal level and what's happening in California, because California is underway. They are being transparent. You can learn so much by following the discussions and the witness testimony for reparation. And we're going to move on to our screen share, man.
Yeah, we're going to do that. But before we do, it's, our people, our Black Americans, our American Indians, we need to start. Hey, man, we got ancestors, bro. We got ancestors here in America that's rolling over in their graves every time. You understand what I'm saying? We don't stand up, recognize, and represent our ancestors here. Not Africa. If you got ancestors in Africa, you do. But us American Blacks, you know what I'm saying? This is our homeland. This is our motherland. And man, understand, we got ancestors here in America. Okay, before I was really interrupted and kind of got through all, okay, so I'm coming to the bottom of this first session that we're talking about. And I was speaking on, American Blacks, which we accept the word Black now, so we American Blacks. And just not to be holding up the show, we're gonna push on. So we're gonna proceed, in our next session we're gonna screen share dealing with reparation. Basically we're dealing with updates on where we at with it. Okay. All right, 2 minutes and 2 seconds. We'll be right back. welcome back to Behind the Scenes with the OGs. We're going to proceed on to our screen share. And our first screen share going to be Foundation of Black Americans. What it is just some people just like you and I, you know what I'm saying, that just get on the phone, call in, you know what I'm saying, through the internet, and they, you know, discuss reparation and, you know what I'm saying, different things that our people's dealing with the genealogy and things of that nature right there. So we must proceed on with our screen share. And we only giving you bits and pieces because basically all we're doing when we do screen share, we do screen share to network with other people, you understand, so we can show other people's point of view and not just only our point of view, you know, and it's all dealing with education. So that's what I'm saying. We just when we do a screen share, we're not picking to show nobody's all of a person's work, you know, what they presented, but we're gonna take out bits and pieces that we can utilize, you know, through our presentations, you know, just to show that we're networking with our people, you know, and that's where y'all come in at, our audience come in at, network along with us, you know what I'm saying, and like, subscribe, and share. Okay, so let's go ahead, DJ, and proceed with this. Dr. Ray Winbush speaks on reparations in the U.S. Dr. Winbush is not no American Black. He happens to be an African, and he wants to give his point of view. So this, you know, that's what's up with this, okay?
If what I'm saying here as being who I am, what I've dealt with, whatever, is untrue, then join me in public to talk about it. Because right now, I'm being called a liar and all this other foolishness. Come in front of the people and talk about it. And that hasn't happened, right? That hasn't happened. So I'm not even worried about it. But for him, as being this scholar, to be able to come on here onto this stage and start trying to talk about others, I think that's pretty cowardice.
She's talking about Dr. Ray Winbush.
I'm not a coward. I don't want my people to, most of my people are
No,
not
it sounded
cowards.
like she was talking about somebody
I
else.
hope not. So we're leaders, and if you're going to lead, then you show people how to do it. If you're going to sit there and have a conversation, then let's have a conversation. I disagree with him. He cleared it all up for me when he said that somebody that got there 25 minutes ago got to the United States, no matter what, as long as they considered themselves as Black, they were going to get a check coming off the plane.
Well, that's not going to happen.
You know why, Rod? This is why you'll see him start talking about shit like imperialism, right? That's the whole reason for talking about imperialism, because that widens the conversation. You know, we can talk about European imperialism now, and therefore, because European imperialism, you know, global white supremacy, because these things exist, that means, you know, every dark-skinned person, you know, is somehow deserving of reparations, as long as they're coming from Africa. Even if they were slave traders or descendants of slave traders themselves, whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as they dark-skinned come from Africa, because of global white supremacy and European imperialism, this is what it is.
As we go through this, we're going to clear this up.
Okay, say you got your Charlize Theron. She's a whole white woman, but she was born in South Africa. So she gets a check, because if she says, well, all of a sudden, you know what, I'm Black, so she gets a check. I mean, there are Black people that were Black people that were in this country that were passing, right? They were passing. So if you're sitting here, you say, hey, well, I was passing over in Africa because I was able to get benefits, but really I'm Black. So all of these Europeans, Asians could say, hey, I got melanin, I'm Black. Anybody saying I'm black, you're gonna have a whole black. And honestly, it sounds ludicrous because it is. They're going to have to cut black checks for everybody that says the two words, I'm black.
And no.
They will never do it.
They're going to need proof.
Yeah.
We're going to skip forward a little bit.
We need to get Dr. Ray Winbush.
All right, let's stop and go back to Ray Winbush because he was on the beginning of the show.
Commission.
This is Dr. Ray Winbush right here.
Is to say,
Turn the volume up.
answer the question whether or not reparations should go.
It won't go up no higher.
Trace their lineage back to enslavement. If you're, African American, can you say that my ancestors were enslaved, as opposed to those who are black, regardless of their ability to trace their ancestry back? And that was the oppositional thing. The vote was 5-4 in favor of this lineage stuff. I have serious problems with this idea of tracing lineage, simply because of the fact not every black person can do that.
Okay, and then, that he's not the only expert that said that. There was another expert that actually gave testimony on that, and so I'm disputing them. I'm disputing that hypothesis and say that I'm a Grambling State University graduate and I can connect the dots.
What are you disputing?
I'm disputing the fact that he's saying that I can't figure out my roots.
Who said that?
He just said that, Dr. Winbush. He said he got a serious.
Well, Dr. Winbush, Dr. Winbush is a moron.
Okay. So I'm just saying he's not the only one that's claiming that. They're talking to us like, number one, we don't have.
They're talking to the Black Americans. That's who he's talking to.
Well,
they're trying to tell us that we can't trace our, lineage.
Well, I'm trying to tell you, him, and everybody else that they are wrong about that.
Well, we know they're wrong about that. That's why he's in the discussion with it. Let's proceed with this. Yeah, you're absolutely right. He is wrong. He's wrong by everything he's saying.
Probably 90% of the black folk in the Western Hemisphere, I'm talking about everything from Canada all the way down to the tip of South America, have some type of enslaved ancestor. That's how they got here in the first place. It wasn't that, and I know, well, let me put it this way. That's how black folk got to the Western Hemisphere, even though we were here a long time ago. But that's a whole nother discussion. So I'm in favor.
Okay, let me stop there, because if we got here a long time ago and we already, prove that somebody else has documented indigenous Americans as blacks was here before Columbus, and what's that your favorite dude you like to show? Dane Calloway?
Yeah, Dane Calloway.
Okay, well, Dane Calloway also has some information in regards to that, showing how blacks got here before Columbus.
The group of people, and I'm sure I'm going to step on some toes, but the group of people that have been pushing this stuff is called ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, which is, I don't want to get into the name itself, but we got to look at the people who are backing ADOS, and the people who are backing ADOS funded by white, and I should say right-wing, activists who are opposed to any type of immigration. ADOS is really kind of white folks in blackface pushing an anti-immigration agenda. So I'll stop there, and maybe I've said enough that will provoke some folks to talk.
Okay. Thank you for what you had stated, but this is the thing, too, that we had kind of had a conversation about. I don't want to make it about myself or just yourself, but I sat down with my parents about 10 years ago, and we were able to trace my ancestry back on my dad's side till the to the late 1700s, and on my mom's side to the early 1800s. So, but I don't qualify for California reparations. I've only stepped foot in California one time in my life, so that doesn't even apply. But what you were saying, I got to give you, I guess, a little bit of pushback on that part too, because it's like, how would that's my pushback on that piece of it, because I wouldn't apply for California reparations no matter what they came up with. Right.
But California is a bellwether state. Usually what happens in California ultimately rolls across the United States. No, I wouldn't even try to apply for, because I don't live in California. Right.
But no, I don't. I don't. Matter of fact, you and I are almost a stone's throw away from each other. I know you're a professor at Morgan over on Cold Spring Lane. I'm very familiar with Morgan. I'm a Towson grad and alum, so I used to go over to Morgan quite frequently when Alpha Gamma had their girls coming out, so they know me well. And I was Mu chapter, DST, so yes. But I wanted to have this kind of conversation with you too, because you and I were speaking about, like, you're affiliated with Cobra, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, with Cobra, then I noticed on their website that they had put a picture of Queen Mother Audley Moore up. And even in that picture, I'm like, that was I didn't understand the point of that, because absolutely what she says in her pamphlet, Why Reparation, Money for Negroes, she specifies clearly exactly what she meant by who she meant reparations was to go to. And if you'll indulge me, I want to be able to read it for the audience, what I have here. It's on Why Reparations, and it's on page 2 of her pamphlet. And that's the name of the pamphlet. It's like, Why Reparation, Money for Negroes. I've never known anybody that's, Caribbean island or African descent calling themselves Negroes.
Okay,
but I know what's on my
wait.
Yes,
No,
sir.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't have no volume. Stop the tape.
Okay.
Yes, she wrote 1963. Yes, sir.
Right.
Today they rock. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show. And we got something new, vibration, groovy mood going on. We're gonna share it with you. All right. This is DJ Hart. Check it out. We're rocking. Today they rock.
Welcome back to Behind the Scenes with the OGs. We are proceeding on with our next screen share, and it's dealing with a brother, OG, that's very heavy, been in the political game for many, many, many years. He's high power. His name is Dr. Claude Anderson. And right now, we're going to listen to a spiel that he's given on reparation. He's giving us, things that's necessary for us, to deal with the establishment, so they can, recognize what we're talking about. Okay.
All right, let's rotate.
You're not here for the discussion. It's not something to talk about that's nice. If you don't get reparations as black folk, you're through in this country. Maybe that very specific point. You see what's happening to black Americans is that black Americans have been systematically, socially engineered into the lowest level of a real life monopoly game. You do not own and control a sufficient amount of anything to be competitive in America. and you've been marginalized now for 400 years. You're getting ready to be buried. You get buried under at least a whole broad groups of ambiguous groupings. That's everything from culture groups, language groups, and gender groups. You're going down. It's no longer an issue. You better get reparations and get it fast. Now, to get reparations, one of the things I've been trying to do now for 30 years, beginning with the state of Florida, when Governor Rubin asked me to put me over education, when they had no blacks in politics in Florida, was to write the first affirmative action plan in the United States, and that was written to be reparations for black folk in 1971. And George Bush Jr., I guess, what's his name, Jed Bush, just killed it off about 6 months ago. But what's happening now is that what I'm trying to do is create a Harvest Institute that would try to take all my colleagues here and as much as possible try to give you new points of information that take you outside the box. Part of the problem we got in trying to deal with reparations, a lot of the other racial issues in the country, is that we keep trying to think and find solutions inside the box. There are no solutions inside the box for black folk. You got to get outside and try to find and get a long-term perspective and a long view on it. And that's what the Harvest Institute is in existence for, and that's what they're going to stay in existence for. Now, the reason you cannot win, as I said, is that you've been locked into this low level of a real-life monopoly game. You do not own and control enough of wealth. See, in 1860, for instance, black folk, as a direct result of slavery, had an ownership. When you were 98% slaves, you had an ownership of 1/2 of 1% of this nation's wealth in 1860 on the eve of the Civil War. Now, this is the richest country in the world, the most capitalistic country in the world. And here you are 140 years after slavery when you're supposedly 100% free and you still only have 1/2 of 1% of this nation's wealth. You cannot compete. The typical average white person in America has 3,500 times more money than you have. That's not true only of blacks in America, it's true of the world internationally. What's happening right now is blacks, the marginalized, subordinated class of people all over the earth. You have 1/2 of 1% of the wealth in this nation. The same thing is true all over the world. In the world, there's approximately $392 trillion worth of wealth on the earth. And black folk around the world have less than 1% ownership of it. That includes all the African countries, that includes Brazil, Caribbean, and America. You don't own enough control of anything. Whites control almost 100% of all the wealth, power, resources, privileges, and controls of all levels of government. You're playing a game you can't win. You got to get reparations. Now, how are you going to get it? Let me run through 3 or 4 things very quickly because I don't want to take up the time here. First thing you must do, I've heard it mentioned already. We gotta commit a national campaign all over this country to start publicizing the issue of reparations for black folk. Not as something nice, but as a necessity, period. That means every living soul, every organization, every court, every institution in this country must begin to start promoting reparations for black folk all over this country. That's level 1. It's a massive promotion of reparations for black folk. Second level 2. What we must do at second level 2 now is to start having fact-finding hearings. You must have fact-finding hearings all over this country. And you're going to have fact-finding hearings on at least 2 different levels. One is you're going to go out fact-finding about what roles governments have played in the reparations, in the slavery trade against black folk, and enslaving of black folk, the marginalization of black folk. And that should break down into 2 levels. One is to investigate all levels of domestic governments, that's city, county, federal, and state governments. And the second group would go after international. So you should have 2 groups of black folk in this country exploring and fact-finding on what roles government have played, one domestically and one internationally. On the left-hand side, you should be doing the same thing for the domestic side. You should be going after the private sector. You should be going after all the private corporations in the United States, what roles they played and how they benefited directly from slavery. And also, on the same side, you must go after all the international corporations and the roles they played and how they benefited. Now, the Harvest Institute right now, my think tank, we've already picked up one. We put out a press release on that. We are going after domestic role that major corporations played in the United States. We've already identified approximately 240 companies that are still in existence that profiteer directly and enrich themselves off of black folk. We're going after that. And what we have to do in our fact finding is be able to factuate, document the direct line between how blacks have been crippled all the way up to economically, politically, socially, and educationally, and tied into these major corporations or tied into levels of government. That's your level 2. Level 3, you must then start having a national convention in this country. And right now, I think Dorothy Tillman in Chicago we talked about this. She's going to try to call one in Chicago this coming year. We must have everybody who's playing a role, like Congressman Conyers and everybody from the Congress, and Cobra, everybody should be at a national convention where we all come in there to not only energize each other, but to share information, see where we are. They're trying to set it up for this coming February, someplace in the United States, possibly Chicago. That's your 3rd level. The 4th level you should start doing is trying to get into out of this conference should come strategies and plans and a specific role model. You got to have a role model, a model that every black can tie into. A model for reparations. Now, my model's a little different from everyone else's, and that's because I'm outside the box. I'm trying to pull everybody else outside if I can get them. Now, most people are going to try to follow the Jewish reparations model or the Japanese model. I'm following the Indian model. The Indians are the most appropriate model if you want to track down, do anything to get reparations to black folk. Why? Because you see, only American Indians and black folk were spelled out in the Constitution. The Indians on reservations and black folk is a direct lineage between those two groups. And if you really want to track and get reparations, the easiest and quickest way is to go find out what happened to American Indians, what benefits they got, and track. In my new book called Power Numbers, it takes you through every one of those steps. You can follow it. You pick that up, you can come right to reparations very quickly because it'd be very difficult for the government to deny black folk the same thing they're giving the Indians. So when you hear people talking about how bad off Indians are, first thing you say, fine, if Indians that bad off, put us as black folk in the same status with the Indians. We'll take that. Because see, right, what Indians got, first of all, nobody declared Indians to be a nation. Indians declared themselves to be a nation. They declared themselves to be a nation all the way up to about 1832 when Supreme Court Justice Marshall said, okay, I'll recognize you as a nation. We never declared ourselves to be a nation. We've always tried to do just the opposite of what the Indians did. Once they became a nation, they drew up a constitution for themselves. We never had a constitution. And what the Indians did with that constitution is then to go to the United States government and say, we do not want to integrate. We did just the opposite. We integrated. And I can track everything right down, or we can follow the Indian model if you want to. And you can see, and all that's already built into the law. There's a direct lineage between American Indians and black folk that you can follow very easily and get to reparations. But we need to have a model. And in my new book, I get that model to be on the stand in about another month. You get the Power Numbers model that take you through all those steps, what they did throughout history for the Blair Amendments and everything else. You can track it very easily, and it'd be very difficult for the United States government to deny you reparations when you only two people that have a constitutional relationship with this government is black folk and Indians. Just like Indians use what they call natural rights, lay their claim against the land, we should use natural law and lay a claim against our labor, misappropriated labor. The next level what you must do is begin to is move to a legal step. You need to form at the fourth level, get you a legal body right now, whether it's going to be pro bono or paid. And out of our convention, we should be able to raise some funds to set up a mass legal body that be ready to start serving suits based on those facts that you're going to find at the second level. And we start finding those, then we should have people going after suits. One side suing the different levels of government, the other side suing the private sector to get reparation funds for black folk. At the last level, you can set up, at the sixth level, you need to set up some kind of a pool or resource or retrieval agency that every time we get some benefits, we're going to a special fund that will be held for pooling and aggregating. Now, then out of that special agency, we break away into two groups, what I would recommend. One, you would have an economic development bank on the East Coast and an economic development bank on the West Coast. And what those banks would do is take most of the money you get, not give it to black folk as individuals. You put it into a massive bank for black folk, go draw that money to start low interest, get low interest loans or free money to build businesses and industries throughout the United States. You also, if you track the Indians, you should try to get yourself some tax-free and tax-exempt land. Just like Indians can go grab any piece of land and federalize it, put up a casino, you tell me you ought to do the same thing as a black person, get tax-exempt statuses. We can go on and on, but there's a lot of things we can track. Go after the Indians. But the thing that's most important, I'm going to quit, is that you got to understand that reparations are an absolute necessity. We're going to get buried alive. We do not have enough to be able to compete in this society. And the further we get away from the civil rights movement, the worse things are going to get. And when people start talking about slavery, don't just talk about slavery. Talk about Jim Crow slavery and benign neglect. You got to understand what slavery was. Slavery is the illegitimate child of racism. Racism still exists. That's slavery. Because what racism does, racism keeps and maintains what was created by slavery. Now, racism is a competitive economic struggle between groups of people for power and wealth. And it's slavery, and racism never existed until the 16th century. And when slavery went out of existence, racism took over. Racism has gone from being slavery to being something biological, and it moved on in about the 1800s. It turned to be something as a personal behavior or an attitude, and now a bias and a prejudice. Racism has nothing to do with attitudes, with prejudice, and with bias. Racism is a competitive group contest between people for race, resources, and for superiority. And racism is a race without a finish line. I thank you very much.
Okay. Now that was a very, very heavy speech that Dr. Anderson just did, and as you can see, it's in front of a big committee. You know, so I think that he gave us some very pertinent points. You know what I'm saying, that we should open our minds to and look at. And one of them points is that the industries of today that still existing and operating, so we're saying off of our resources, from slavery. Okay.
Yeah. And that's what created that big wealth gap. Now they're trying to use the wealth gap information along with Dr. Claude Anderson and other scholars who have already researched this stuff and been on the mission of trying to get reparations for a long time. Most of them people are included. All right. So in the documentation for reparation, because what history is the proof that we should get reparation. They would have to distort the entire American history in order to erase the history that will prove us.
Well, they attempted to do that.
Trying, believe me, they're trying to do it today. They're
trying to do it when they start calling us African Americans. They already did it to annihilated our culture as American Indians. You know what I'm saying? So now they come at us with this African American scheme shit. You know what I'm saying? In order to throw us off, and continue with the racism and the white supremacy.
Well, another thing is that they do not, the educational system itself, the people who run that, the politicians and all of that stuff who run the Department of Education and all these school boards, right now, they're trying to not teach the true American history by leaving out different things in regards to slavery. And that's the argument that's going on right now today. Now, what we need is a complete history of America. And that's the only way for us to be properly educated. That's why
what we need is an update on our history. As far as American history, we know American history. We're natives of America. We know American history, but our own personal history, in which we have been tricked into another history.
That's what I'm saying. We need to reunite with our family, pay attention to the oral history of our elders. All right, because all of that information is what you need in order to document the facts. I mean, the oral history of your ancestors, all right, can lead you in the right direction so you don't be searching in the wrong place. All right, so that's why I'm saying we need, as a part of my talk on intellectual property, it's all about healing the family, bringing the family back together. All right. Now, that's why I don't want the government to do it for us, because we're already not motivated. We're already disconnected. Why are we disconnected? Because of the school to prison pipeline. All right. Because of things like Section 8, the welfare department that gives money to women and children and say the man can't be there. All right, so all these things disconnect us from our roots. All right, so they did disconnect us from both of our roots, the American Indian and the American Black who was brought over here from Africa. They disconnected our history. They tried to wipe it out.
Well, those who was brought over here from Africa, they are not Americans. Those are Africans. So we need to stipulate and understand, what I'm saying, that there is most definitely a difference.
Yeah, it's a difference, but I'm saying we both suffer some of the same atrocities. The elimination of our culture, the misappropriation of our culture, the cultural appropriation of our culture. All right, because I read about a black man called Bass Reed that was a U.S. Marshal, one of the first black U.S. Marshals in the United States. And as I read through the documentation on that, here is, he's part of the reason why we got the Lone Ranger. All right, so, and that's exactly what
the
Dr.
Lone
Bob
Ranger is
Anderson
a white
said.
man. We don't got the Lone
Well,
Ranger.
let me say this. I want to say the reason why they was able to put together the Lone Ranger TV show is because they had the money to do it. If we wanted to put together a TV series of Bass Reeves, well, we're gonna have to search around.
Are you saying that Bass Reed is the true Lone Ranger and they stole that and didn't, you know what I'm saying?
From my point of view, I mean,
Huh?
everybody have a different point of view, but from my point of view, that's cultural appropriation. All right, they take stories from, I think he arrested about 3,000. Think about it, right? He arrested 3,000 criminals, all right? And most of them he didn't kill, he captured them, all right? So right there, 3,000 arrests. Think about how many TV shows you can make off that. All right, so we didn't have the money to produce it. They did, all right? So when you talk about that gap, that wealth gap.
Well, I still trying to see, are you comparing, saying that because
I'm
of
saying,
him, they stole his reputation, stole his existence, and made a Lone Ranger? What is the Lone Ranger coming at compared to him? I don't get it.
Okay, now I'm talking about cultural appropriation, right? What is cultural appropriation? When they take the history of a black man and then convert it over to a white man.
All right, that's all I wanted to know. What you was,
cultural appropriation.
That. I got you.
And I'm saying we still faced with the same problem today.
Yeah.
All right, because they had the money then and they got the money now.
Yeah.
All right. So here we are producing the show the way we got to do it. Why?
But they stole the money from us, though.
Right. And that's why we need reparations, because we could begin to compete in the film industry to produce historical shows or even
to create whatever shows we want to create.
Yeah, if we got the money.
You know what I'm saying? That should be that is a right. You know what I'm saying? That's justice. You know what I'm saying? We, you know what I'm saying, our blood, sweat, and tears, you know what I'm saying, is still, binding on them being in the position that they in right now. And they still not respecting that.
Well,
so, yeah,
that's what
pay your debt. That's all we need to say. Pay your debt, man.
Can I go back to Dr. Anderson? He's saying we are in serious competition with people who got 1,000, 2,000, or 3,000 times more money than us. All right. So if we want to do a motion picture, we got to hustle that money up. When somebody else who's our competition, they might have that money in their pocket or in their bank or in stocks. And we're not talking about them hawking their home like most black business people have to do. No, they got some disposable cash that they can make a movie with. So this is what I'm talking about. We need reparation, and we need it now. And when we get the money, we need to compete in industry, not just go around flossing, bling, bling, and spend up all our money instantaneously without making an investment into something that will give you a return on your money.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. You know what I'm saying? But, it's like, we already know, that we're going to have those that, just once they touch money, and they're not used to touching no money. So when they do touch it, they only know one thing to do, and that's to go straight back and spend it. You know what I'm saying?
We need
to get their debt. They just return their debt right back. So.
I'm just saying, That's why we need to get the word out. That's why we need to push this show. We need to get our people to subscribe and like to this show and hit that bell notification button, because we will not only be digging up history, we will be trying to tell you how to use it appropriately to benefit your life and your family and your ancestors and your kinfolks that you might not even know, but you could be of service to them by being in the know.
Yeah, well, and what our brothers need to do, our so-called men need to do, is take a moment out of your time, you know what I'm saying, to involve yourself in some educational information and stop thinking, you know what I'm saying, that everything got to be about drama, because drama is not going to do nothing but take you down and keep us down. So, you know what I'm saying, these moments that you get to share with the OGs, you know what I'm saying? Take time off for some educational moments in your life, you know what I'm saying? So we can reach the success, you know what I'm saying, that's mandatory for us to reach.
Right on. Okay, we're going to move on to the next screen share. Give us a moment or so, and we'll get right back with you.
2 minutes and 2 seconds. Y'all come right back now. Okay, so Dr. Claude Anderson, you know, he gave us some great pointers, and you know, I hope that you guys take that information in, and you know what I'm saying, and be supportive and join in as a people, because we got scholars, already, doing their part, but at the same time, as a people, we need to do our part. And as American Blacks, we do our part anyway, you know what I'm saying? So, let's just, keep our stride up.
Before we get to the historic vote on reparations for Black Americans in California, I want to say to Dr. Claude Anderson and anybody else who thinks that this reparation money needs to go into a single pool and then be distributed from that single pool. And I would say, no, maybe in some cases it might be acceptable, but for the most part, I say the bulk of that money needs to be distributed in the direct payment to the individuals that deserve it. Because one thing don't fit, one size don't fit all. A lot of times they come up with programs, say, oh, we need medical help. Then they want to put money over there. We need psychiatrist help. They will put money over there. We need business loans. They're going to put money over there. Then I say that one size theory will not do. And if they pile up all these different institutional programs, then the institutions are going to get all the money and very little is going to be distributed to the people. That's what we don't want. I don't want that. And I'm asking the people to really look at it and say and watch out for that. Yeah, I call that the bottleneck program. So basically every expert coming up, a percentage of them is going to come up with their own bottleneck program. All right.
Well, we not just gonna close the door to them, saying allotting money, saying, for other needs that, saying, that our people need, saying, they can allot money for that. But at the same time, they can also, as far as reparation payout goes, that's each individual Black American. As simple as that. You know what I'm saying? And so, but we're not closing our mindset to them opening up other avenues, so I'm saying, to use reparation money towards.
Okay, but I'm just saying
we need all those. Those are commodities.
But I'm not saying if they say, well, we suffer from environmental damages, and then appropriate a gang of money for green space. I say that's not reparation, that's parks and recreation. And they already got a funding agency for parks and recreation.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, let's continue on because this is something that needs to be cleared up. Let's take a listen to it.
A California Reparations Task Force is making history with a major decision on who will receive compensation. The first of its kind task force was put together by Governor Gavin Newsom back in 2020. Now, after hours of testimony and debate, the group has voted 5-4 that reparations should be paid to descendants of Black slaves who were living in the United States during the 19th century. Chairperson of the California Reparations Task Force, Camila Moore, joins me now with a little bit more on all of this. Camila, thank you for being here. I know that California is the only state in the U.S. to move ahead with a study and a plan for reparations like this. So how has this process been to try to figure this all out?
Hi, thank you for having me. We started the California Reparations Task Force meeting in June of last year. And since June, we've held a series of virtual public hearings on a variety of topics, but starting with the transatlantic slave trade, to the institution of slavery, to more contemporary harms against African Americans in California and the United States more broadly around predatory lending practices, environmental racism in banking, tax, and labor, amongst other issues as well. And so we've had an ongoing conversation about who should be eligible for reparations, and we finally resolved that question yesterday afternoon.
Now, what were some of the key issues that you faced during all these ongoing discussions and debates?
Right. And so the framing around the community of eligibility to the task force was around, should it be race-based, so all Black Californians, regardless of national or even immigrant origin, or should it be lineage-based, so where you can trace your ancestry to an enslaved or free African-American person who was living in the United States prior to the 19th century. And so there were amazing arguments on both sides, but 5 task force members decided, along with myself, that a lineage-based approach would be most apt.
Wait a minute, I want to stop right there. My oral history go all the way back to sharecropping. That they just showed a little sharecropping clip there. So that's from the oral history, and it might also be included in the family history from 1739 to 1940. All right, so that's what I'm saying. It's possible for us to document our history.
How significant do you think was, one, the creation of this task force and finally reaching this decision?
Well, I think, of course, it's history in the making, and it's a long time coming. The history of lineage-based reparations advocacy literally starts during enslavement with Belinda Sutton and Callie House, who were one of the first African-American women to advocate for reparations for ex-slaves, to Queen Mother Audley Moore in the 1960s and the Black Panther Party, who also fought for reparations in their platforms, to grassroots activists today who were responsible for the enactment of AB 3121, along with Secretary of State Shirley Weber, and of course, California Governor Gavin Newsom.
So why do you think these reparations, one, why are they necessary? And what will this compensation look like? Will these be cash payments or will it come in other forms?
So the task force still has to decide what forms of compensation would look like. And we've actually hired an economic consultant team that includes Dr. Sandy Darity, William Spriggs, and other economists to help the task force crunch the numbers essentially in terms of what compensation could look like. And to your point about why reparations is important, we know that slaves were promised 40 acres and a mule, and that was rescinded due to discrimination. And so, you know, reparations is about accounting for that broken promise of Reconstruction and repairing the transferred harms to the direct descendants of those enslaved people.
And I know this is a really complicated question, but as best as you can sum it up, how did you link those wrongs with how they're impacting people still today?
Well, that's a really good question, because in the statute itself, AB 3121, it mandates the task force to study and develop reparations proposals on the lingering negative effects of slavery against a particular group of people, and that being freed African slaves and their descendants. So there are many different lingering or badges and incidents of slavery, like homelessness, like mass incarceration, amongst many other factors that are still a badge and incident of slavery in 2022 that has to be eradicated in order for true equity to be achieved. And so that's the historic task that we have as a 9-member task force.
All right, Camila Moore, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it.
I want to say good night.
Good night, and let reparation be the reason for the season.
Wait a minute, we got a little bit more to say, man. We got 6 minutes, man. I want to tell the people.
No, we don't got no 6 minutes.
I'm looking at it on my end. We got 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 19 seconds. All right. So we have come to the end of our show. And what I want to say, I want to thank all my fans for my #1 music fans for supporting my music and streaming and sharing my music. But I'm going to say that in 1 month's time, the rate of streams that I got, I can raise $6,000, go to California, buy me a new suit and a new pair of tennis shoes, and do my 3-minute speech in Los Angeles, California, all right? And tell the government exactly what's on our minds, because that's why I'm saying support the cause by buying one song. And all you got to do is, that's it, all right? Upgrade from super fan to VIP customer. That's what I'm saying, because the magic word is customer, all right? And it's only one way to be a customer. That's not streaming. That's when you spend your money directly to support the artist, so I can put together new music, field trips, video productions. And when I come to LA, I'm not coming just to do a 3-minute speech. Yeah, that's important. But what's more important is that I can probably put together a nice video project and bring some good entertainment to you from the West Coast. All right?
Okay. And so, you know, let it be known to our audience, you know, DJ is going to, you know what I'm saying, have intentions on participating in, you know what I'm saying, with the committee on the task force and give his speech. And, you know, he's trying to, you know, say he want to come, you know, to LA to do this. If not, he's gonna write in. So we are doing our part, and we having an actual participating, you know what I'm saying, in it thus far. We have been contacted by, you know what I'm saying,
official organization. I received the invitation from official organization that's part of a movement who was involved with crafting the bill. They sent me an invitation. So I'm just saying, yeah, this is real, man. They recognize homeschooling, man. You can homeschool yourself or you can homeschool your children. Now, you familiar with that process, homeschooling your kids. All right, but when you become an adult, you graduate from college, you can still homeschool yourself. And that's how I got involved by homeschooling myself, so I can talk to them with some measure of intelligence.
Well, that's a good thing. And so that's, you know, yeah, thank you, you know what I'm saying, for, you know, that participation. And, you know, that's already letting us know that, you know, saying we are being heard and we're being noticed. So we're doing our part.
Oh, I forgot to say, when it comes to my number one super, that's why I call them super fans, because I am number one in Shreveport. And let me tell you, it's some young bucks creeping up right behind me, and they're gonna probably knock me out sooner or later from number one spot. But let me tell you, they got some groovy beats and they got some cold, hard lyrics, you know what I'm saying? And they're coming with that. Now I'm telling you, I feel good. Why? Because I'm competing with the best. I ain't competing with no weaklings. I'm competing with, and in the state of Louisiana, I'm ranked number 2 right now on the chart. All right, so you ain't talking to no weakling when it comes to beat making. I'm up there among the heavyweights, man. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's make it
Just
happen.
cut a deal today to do a theme song for somebody's website for a 30-second spot. And I told him, I said, boy, this beat is so bad. This beat is so tough that I want to take it and make a love song out of it. Huh? Woo! But they said, this is the one I want. So I just out. You know, so a deal is a deal. And, you know what I'm saying? I made that deal. I got to live with it.
Well, get your money. That's what you got to do.
No, this is all right. Here's how the black world works. All right, way back in the gap, it's going on today. Barter system. You don't need
whatever. You know, so you still getting your money.
See, I'm talking to another artist that's a graphic artist, and they are good. And I'm trying to encourage them to be great. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm supporting their cause.
Yeah.
Got 1 minute to rap.
Okay. Well, sounds good. You know what I'm saying? You know, you climbing on up the ladder, you're hitting the number 1 spot, and you're dealing with your challenges. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you're getting your flowers in. You know, so hey.
Yeah.
There's nothing to it but to do it.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap this show on up, and I love you for watching. Thank you very much. Please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that bell notification. And if you're bold enough, if you're brave enough, if you're American enough, leave a comment.
What can I say? You know what someone saying?
Here we go.
Okay, he got that see how pretty that little bike is. All these come out, the Lolos come out. Get those mini bikes, get them powder coated, that pink you seen on that pink one that was pinkish orange that was like a powder coat paint on that. Get out like that.
That's down near 120th.
This is the races. No, that's in Long Beach. Oh, that was the most recent downtown takeover. You see how them people? Oh, that was me right there. You walk by. Back that up.
Here it come again.
Right there.
All right.